Hi there, Laura Wilson from Gold Star Work here. Welcome to day 9 of building a daily painting habit. Now I hope that you are getting your paints out and that you're not just watching me paint, because the whole point of this series is to actually build up a daily painting habit and get us going into painting. So today I'm going to be painting a small canvas. And I'm going to do a little painting of some bumblebees, because after yesterday's getting ready to do those poppies and doing the background and thinking about doing the bumblebees, I got quite enthusiastic about doing that, and I really wanted to paint some bumblebees. So because the other painting's going to take a while to do, I decided to do this little one for this series. So I'm going to do some clovers and a bumblebee, and we're going to be talking a bit about composition and using light and shadow, and just a little taster of a few little technical things that I've been looking into lately. So I hope you enjoy, and let's get painting. Okay, today I am going to do a little wee painting because I want to do some bumblebees. So I got enthused about my poppy bumblebee painting, and I decided I wanted to paint a bumblebee today, and I'm going to do it on clover this time. And if I do a small one, then it'll be more achievable than the larger one. And I don't know why I suddenly desperately want to paint bumblebees, but I'm in the mood to paint bumblebees, so that's what I'm going to do. And I'm just doing the sky. This is just a mix of cerulean blue and titanium white. So I've just done a mix all the same, but now I'm going to come in, and while the paint's still wet, I'm going to bring in a bit more of the cerulean blue to put in the top there, just darken the top a little bit. I don't mind if, I don't want it too streaky, but I don't mind if there's a bit of variation, just creates a little bit more interest in the sky there. And grab some white, lighten up the bottom a bit. And while this paint is still wet, I'm going to go over with some little background clovers and in the leaves. So I'm just putting in sort of some blurry kind of colour. As you can see, I've painted right over my drawing. That's fine, I'm not too worried about that. just gave me sort of some initial idea of where I wanted to put things. And the paint is mixing with my sky colour. That just saves me having to mix it on the palette because it's mixing on the actual painting instead. We've been listening to some more of Stephen Bowen's talks on YouTube. And he doesn't do painting demonstrations, but he talks about painting and painting theory. And I would actually say if you're interested in some more of the technical aspects of painting and painting theory, then he would be a good one to listen to, because he's really interesting and you will probably learn quite a lot. So I think he's definitely worth having a listen to. And one of the things he was saying was that as artists we don't paint objects, we paint light and shadow. So when you're painting, shouldn't be thinking about the object that you're painting, but thinking about how the light and shadow plays on it and how that makes that whatever it is you're painting interesting, and how you can play with light and shadow to make your painting even more interesting. So although I'm painting a bumblebee, I'm not really just painting a bumblebee. I'm painting the light and shadow and of what I'm trying to paint, and I'm not concentrating on painting clover flowers. I'm concentrating on painting how the light hits the flower and how it casts the shadows to make the shape of the flowers. So I'm thinking about the shapes and the lights and the shadows rather than just the thing itself that I'm painting. Now, I'm thinking, I quite like the way these are turning out, but I actually think I might just blur them out a bit, and I'm just going to stick my paper towel on there, just very gently lift it off, and you can see I've got just kind of a little bit of paint on my paper towel. And then I can get my mop brush, my small mop brush, since it's a small painting. And I'm just going to just smooth out a few of those brush strokes. And that's all I'm going to do there. Just so it looks more like it's in the background. I don't want it to stand out too much. And some of those little lines I don't like that the mop brush caused. So it just gives that suggestion that there's something going on behind there. So I need to dry that off. I've dried that off. I can see my sky is quite uneven because I only did one coat. So I'm actually going to do a bit more on the sky because I don't like that patchy kind of look. Oops, put my brush in the yellow paint accidentally. Mistakes happen. So I just put some water, I washed my brush out, put some water on it and picked up that yellow straight away so it wasn't staining the canvas at all. Be a bit more careful where I put my brush. That's the trouble when you're in a hurry. You've got a friend coming for morning tea in 40 minutes, so I haven't got a lot of time. Painting always takes longer when you're filming as well. So I don't think I'll get this one finished in one session. I might have to come back later on. Or it might end up doing it over 2 days, so hopefully I'll be able to get the flowers finished today and then I can do the bumblebee tomorrow. I've just put some water on my brush and I'm just fading that out because I don't want to ruin down there because I quite like what's going on down there. So now I'm going to start putting my main flowers in. And I've pre-mixed all my colours just to make things go a bit quicker. And I've just used a sap green here and then put a bit of the magenta in that I'm going to be using to mix, that I mixed the purples with the ultramarine blue when I do the purples. So for the green I just used that magenta as my red, so that it all is more harmonious colour-wise. I didn't want to use a completely different colour. So I'm thinking about what my local colour will be, which is the main colour of what my flower would look like. And I'm putting some of that in, just to get my shape. And then I'm going to fill in the gaps with various light and dark colours. So one thing he was talking about, Stefan Bowman was talking about when you're painting light and shadow, he was talking about the colours that you use and what happens when you get a muddy painting or a chalky painting. And a chalky painting means that you've used cool colours for your lights and for your shadows, and it makes your painting look chalky. And a muddy painting means that you've used warm colours for your lights and warm colours for your shadows. And what you need to do is you need to mix it up. So if you've got cool coloured highlights, you need warm coloured shadows, and vice versa. And your highlights are reflected, the colour is reflected from what's around you. So what's around my flowers is the sky. So my highlights will be reflecting the sky, which is a cooler blue. So my highlights are going to be cool. So then my shadows need to be warmer to stop this painting looking chalky or muddy. One of the other things he was talking about was he teaches classes and he gives them homework, And he says, the people that just do the homework and keep coming back week after week with the same results because they haven't pushed themselves are not going to learn. But the ones that kind of step out of the box and do something quite different are the ones that are going to get the most out of the classes. And you should always be striving to produce your best work. Should be working towards making each painting better than the last one. Now I've painted clover flowers before, and in this one I have an idea in my head of what I'm trying to achieve. I want a more painterly effect, and I want to really play with that light and shadow idea of having your cooler shadows and your cooler highlights and your warmer shadows. And so I'm thinking about how I can improve on my last paintings that I did of bumblebees and clover. I'm not just being content with doing something the same. Because as he said, the definition of being crazy is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So if you want to improve your painting, you need to try different things and keep learning and apply that learning to your painting if you expect to get better results. So that's what I am trying to do with my painting. I'm always striving to improve and learn and apply that learning to whatever I happen to be painting at the time. I'm going to do another little flower down here. Now my main focus of interest is going to be here where the bumblebee is, and I'm going to try and show the light shining on the bumblebee and around this flower here. So that's going to be my main focus of interest. So I want my strongest contrast around here. I want my brightest brights and my darkest darks over there. Oops, I got too much water on the brush there. So I'm thinking about that as I am painting. And Stefan Bowen was also talking about centres of interest. The centre of interest is a small area in the painting. So the example he uses is when you are looking at a person, like he says, well, if you look at me, and he points to his eyes and says, look at me, now what can you see? Can you see the background when you look at me? And no, you can't, it goes all out of focus, you can't see the background. Can you see, if you are looking really closely at my eyes, can you see both eyes at the same time? No, you can only see one. You can switch between the two, but you can still only see one eye. And the point he was making is that very often with photographs, the photograph will show, especially with modern cameras, all the foreground things in detail. So all my foreground flowers in a photo would be in sharp focus and in detail, but for a painting that doesn't work, because you can't have your eye trying to focus on everything on the painting. You need to pick one area that's going to be your centre of interest, and that's where you want most of your detail. That's where you want your strongest highlights and your strongest contrast between your darks and your lights, and that's where you want your sharpest edges. Because that's where you want the eye to look. And the other thing he was talking about when composing a picture is thinking about how your eye will move around the picture. So you've got your centre of interest, but you want to lead your eye around your painting, so it comes in and around your painting to go to where you want the person to look. So I'm thinking about all that as I compose my painting. So I still want these flowers that aren't my focus of interest. I still want them to look like they're in front of these ones in the back here. So the trick is to make them strong enough to stand out from the background, but not so strong that they're going to overtake where my centre of interest is. So that's my challenge as I paint this one. And I'm going for a very painterly approach. If you have watched some of my earlier videos, I was talking about how I like to do a more painterly approach rather than a more realistic approach, and I brought a book called The Painterly Approach by Bob Rom, and I have just started reading that and looking at lots of beautiful painterly paintings, so I'm keeping that in mind as well as I paint, because I want to get that kind of painterly kind of look for my flowers. Now when I did my drawing, I had another one down here, which I think I'll still put in because the number 3 is kind of more pleasing to the eye. Odd numbers are more pleasing to the eye than 2, and I think it will be quite a nice, if it comes off the canvas here, so it's coming up into here, I think that'll cause some nice movement in the picture. And I think it'll also be nice to cover up the bottom of this stem here. I'm going to do it a bit bigger, so it's a bit more forward, but I don't want it to take away from where the main focus is going to be, so I still don't want that in too sharp a focus, even though it's more forward than the other one. So I'm going to do it bigger. But to make sure it doesn't take over from the main focus, I'm going to make the colours closer in tone, so that there's not as much contrast as there will be in this one. Yeah, so the reason why he says, Stefan Bowen says he doesn't do painting tutorials is because he doesn't believe they work. He thinks it's better for you to know the techniques and the fundamentals. You need to know the fundamentals so that you can apply it to any painting. So you're not... The example that he uses is somebody comes in and asks him, "Oh, how do you paint a wine glass?" And he's saying, "Well, what is it you're actually trying to paint? It's not actually the wine glass, it's the light on the wine glass and the way the shadows fall and the reflections and the reflected light." And so if you can learn to paint reflected light and shadows and things, you can paint anything. So I'm going to go in with my darker little colours. And that's it's very true. If you're learning how to paint, and sometimes I'll watch painting videos and look at how they do things and their techniques, but I won't follow them exactly. I'll be applying what I'm learning to my own pictures. And you see a lot of artists that he sees, even really good ones, that they're not really sure on what they're doing at times. They say, "Oh, you instinctively know how to do something." But in actual fact, that instinct is based on their experience and their knowledge of the fundamentals. Now, if you don't have a knowledge of the fundamentals, then your instincts are going to lead you wrong because you don't have the knowledge to back up what you're doing. So that's something to keep in mind, that you need to learn the fundamentals as you go along to improve your painting and not just rely on instinct, because instinct is just a reflection of what you know. And you may not even realise that is your instincts coming through. You might think, "Oh, I just knew how to do that," but you didn't just know how to do that. It was a collection of all your past experiences that was showing you how to do that. So I'm having to play around with trying to do kind of warm shadows here. So I've mixed some of my burnt umber with the magenta that I used for the flowers to make a warm brown, and I'm using that for my darker shadows. And I'm mixing my ultramarine blue in with some white for my light shadows to make a cool shadow. The thing I think I will do is, I've done my shadows. I'm sorry, to make my cool highlights, I meant to say before. I'm trying to make my shadows a bit smoother and less textured, and I'm going to make my highlights show up with more paint. Now, I actually think that is enough for now for that flower. When I've put the bumblebee in, I'll see how it goes together and if I need to do any more. And I may end up doing some more of these more foreground flowers around the side here, but I'll see how I feel about it when I've done the bumblebee. So I'm going to stop there for today because I've got other things that I need to do. And if you have a chance, go have a look at Stefan Bowen's talks. They're really interesting. I found they were quite interesting, and if you're interested in the technical side of painting and learning some fundamentals, then he's got some good little tips there. And hope you all have a great day, and happy painting, everyone. Bye.